Hi everyone, welcome to this first episode of Xbox 360, a retrospective. Today we're going to explore the very first game in the Xbox 360 collection, alphabetically that is, which is 007 Bloodstone. Let's jump in. James Bond has always seemed such an obvious choice for a video game property. Action, espionage, cars, guns, romance, diabolical baddies and ridiculous set pieces. So it's weird that it took until 1997 and the genius of Rare to show the world just how good a Bond game could be. In the following years, 007 as a gaming franchise struggled to live up to the brilliance and success of GoldenEye. Despite some solid efforts from games like Everything or Nothing, The World Is Not Enough, and Nightfire. By 2010, releases like Quantum of Solace and From Russia with Love had really not gone down so well, and interest in James Bond games had basically waned. But fear not, up steps Activision to the plate, with not one, but two Bond releases that year. GoldenEye 007 Remastered on the Wii and DS, and Bloodstone. So looking in more detail at Bloodstone, 007 Bloodstone was developed by Bizarre Creations, who also developed Project Gotham Racing, Metropolis Street Racer, Geometry Wars and Blur. So it was a somewhat odd choice for this type of game, given Bizarre's reputation was built on excellent driving games. It was published by Activision, back when they actually, used to publish games that weren't just Call of Duty. It's a third-person shooter developed using Bizarre Creations' Bespoke engine, which was originally created for the Club. It was announced on the 16th of July 2010 and launched in the UK on the 6th of November 2010. As well as the Xbox 360 version, there were also simultaneous releases on both PC and PlayStation 3, and there was even a DS version launched on the same day, co-developed by N-Space. The game garnered a Metacritic of 62 at launch, though many critical re-evaluations since then seem to agree that score is way below what it's worth. In terms of back compatibility, sadly due to licensing issues between MGM and Activision, this game never made the cut for Xbox One or Series back compatibility, so you will need an Xbox 360 and a physical copy of the game on disc to play it today. As for the online, this was shut down after Activision's license of 007 from MGM ended in January 2013 and is no longer playable. On to the game. Fundamentally, Bloodstone isn't actually a bad game at all. It's a somewhat generic third-person cover shooter, but it's also a game with a pretty decent story, set in between the events of Quantum of Solace and Skyfall. Shooting and cover mechanics are solid, the driving sections are a lot of fun, which is unsurprising given the developer. The melee combat is perfectly smooth and intuitive, and of course there is the usual video game trope of turning valves to interact with the environment. Lots of things blow up, many of them spectacularly, and you as Bond get to take joy in murdering a fairly ungodly number of enemies. The enemy AI isn't the best. The game is pretty easy and you can push through the story in 5 to 8 hours, dependent on your skill and the difficulty settings you play on. Achievements wise, there's a couple of hundred or so points that are no longer obtainable due to them being multiplayer online achievements, which is obviously no longer supported. Otherwise, it's a fairly straightforward list. Finish each level, finish the game, do it all again on 007 difficulty, get all the collectibles, do certain things on certain levels. Pretty standard stuff. I actually quite enjoy playing this again. I mean, sure, it's not perfect. It shows its age in places, and you don't really get the sense of being Bond. And it is pretty short. The sort of game back in 2010 you'd have rented for a couple of nights from Blockbuster, and you'd have returned it quite satisfied. But it's certainly not as bad as the launch Metacritic score would suggest. I guess we were just blessed with a lot more better third-person cover shooters back in the day. In terms of cost, as of November 2024, a UK PAL version isn't going to set you back more than £5 or £6. If you're lucky on an auction, you may get it even less than that. CEX usually sell it for way under a tenner, so it's a very affordable game. Your mileage with it will vary, but for a relatively entertaining, pretty short blast through, I'd say it's actually worth a go today, especially if you're a Bomb fan. While some of the conditions are right for it to be collectible in the future, being unavailable digitally for a start, there's so many copies of this out in the wild, so in all honesty, I highly doubt it will ever become super rare or sought after. So that was a little retrospective on 007 Bloodstone. Let me know in the comments if you've played it and what you think of it. And if you've got this far, please do hit the thumbs up on the video and do consider subscribing to the channel, as I will continue to work my way through the Xbox 360 collection and making these retrospectives on every physical game. Until next time, be awesome to each other, and I unconditionally love your hecking faces.